There's a silence that follows betrayal. It doesn't roar. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It whispers the truth you've been too kind to face. You start to see that some smiles were not born from affection, but from convenience. Some hearts didn't beat beside yours. They beat through yours. We spend so much of our lives giving, our time, our trust, our spirit. We pour ourselves into others, believing that love means emptying our cup so someone else can drink. But one day, when the well runs dry, you notice who stays for the water and who stayed for the bucket. There comes a time in every soul's journey when the fog finally begins to clear. It doesn't happen suddenly, nor does it come with thunder or applause. It happens quietly, on an ordinary day, in an ordinary moment, when you start to see the truth that's been sitting in front of you all along. You begin to realize that some people were never truly there for you. They were there for what they could take, what they could gain, what they could use. This realization doesn't arrive gently. It breaks you open. It makes you question every word you believed, every smile you trusted, every promise you held close. But this is the awakening of realization, the moment you stop pretending that every connection is pure and start seeing who was standing beside you out of love and who was standing beside you out of need. It begins with a feeling, a subtle shift in energy. You notice the conversations growing shorter, the warmth growing colder. You realize that the laughter once shared now feels rehearsed, that the concern once shown now feels transactional. The truth doesn't scream, it whispers. It whispers through their absence when you're the one in need. It whispers through their silence when you stop giving. It whispers through the discomfort you feel when you finally start saying no. And though your heart resists it, you begin to understand people change when they can't use you anymore. The hardest part of this awakening is not their change, it's your recognition of it. You start to see patterns that you ignored before. You remember the times you went out of your way to show up for them, the times you stayed up late to listen, the times you sacrificed your own comfort so they could find peace. You remember doing it all because you thought love was about giving endlessly, forgiving quickly, and asking for nothing in return. But now you see how that love was misunderstood. You realize that while you were giving, they were taking. While you were pouring, they were filling themselves without ever thinking to refill you. There's a certain pain in knowing that your kindness was someone else's convenience, that your loyalty was someone else's safety net. You begin to replay moments, trying to find where the line blurred between love and use. You wonder if it was your fault, if you were too open, too trusting, too willing to believe in good intentions. But the truth is, generosity of spirit is not a flaw, it's a mirror. It shows the world who you are, and it shows you who they are. The awakening teaches you that it's not wrong to give. It's only dangerous when you forget to give to yourself, too. In this realization, something inside you begins to shift. You start to see that not everyone deserves access to your light. Some only stand near it to warm their own shadows. You begin to understand that love should never cost your peace and that respect should never be negotiated. You remember that your worth is not a discount to be handed out to those who only come around when the store is open. This awakening teaches you boundaries, not bitterness. It doesn't harden your heart. It teaches it how to choose wisely. You learn that when people stop benefiting from your energy, some will disappear as quickly as they arrived. They'll leave you questioning your own value, wondering if their affection was ever real. But as painful as that truth may be, it's also liberating, because now you see clearly what left you was never meant for you. The love that vanishes when you stop giving was never love at all. It was a transaction, and transactions expire when the profit ends. This awakening invites you to reclaim your power. You begin to understand that being needed is not the same as being loved. Being depended on is not the same as being respected. Some people confuse your kindness with weakness because they've never known love without condition. They've never known loyalty without motive. But you have, and that's what makes you different. You love from a place of wholeness, not hunger. And even though they may have tried to take from you, they can never take that essence. In your quiet moments, you'll feel the ache of loss, the space where false friends once stood, the silence where validation used to echo. It will feel empty at first, but then slowly that emptiness will become peace. You'll realize that it's better to walk alone in honesty than to walk with a crowd built on pretense. You'll find that solitude can be sacred when it's no longer filled with noise that drains your soul. The awakening teaches you that solitude is not loneliness, it's recovery. It's the place where your energy returns home. You'll start to notice how light you feel without the weight of people who only came to take. You'll notice how your laughter sounds different when it's not filtered through someone else's expectations. You'll notice how powerful your no feels when it's spoken without guilt, because this is what awakening does. It restores you to yourself. It shows you that your value was never measured by how much you could give to others, but by how deeply you could honor yourself. And as you continue to awaken, you'll stop chasing explanations. You'll stop needing closure from those who never cared to offer it. You'll stop trying to prove that you were good enough. You'll see that their departure was not rejection, it was revelation. It revealed who was truly aligned with your growth and who was merely orbiting your giving. This realization will hurt, yes, but it will also heal because it forces you to see your own strength. It reminds you that the same heart that was used is still capable of love. The same hands that were taken for granted are still capable of creation. The same spirit that was drained is still capable of rising. And one day, you'll look back and thank the ones who left, not for the pain they caused, but for the clarity they gave. They showed you the difference between attachment and connection, between being wanted and being valued. The awakening of realization is not just about others changing, it's about you changing too. It's about you refusing to be used again, refusing to settle for half-hearted affection, refusing to pour yourself into empty cups. It's about learning that love without respect is not love, and loyalty without reciprocity is not loyalty. It's about standing in your truth even when it shakes, and knowing that losing people who used you is not a loss, it's liberation. So when you finally awaken, don't harden your heart. Just guard it with wisdom. Don't stop giving. Just give where love flows both ways. Don't stop believing in people. Just believe in yourself first. Because once you've seen the truth, you'll never be blind again. And that vision, though born from pain, will guide you to peace. There is a quiet weight that comes with being needed. It sounds noble, it looks holy, but it can be heavy enough to crush your own heart if you are not careful. Being needed can feel like love, it can feel like importance, but sometimes it is only dependence wrapped in praise. There are people who will sing your name when you fix their brokenness, who will shower you with warmth when you carry their pain. But you will see how quickly their song ends when you put your burdens down. You will learn that the price of being needed is often paid in silence, exhaustion, and pieces of yourself you didn't realize you were giving away. At first, it feels beautiful. You want to help, to heal, to hold. You are proud to be strong for others. You tell yourself that love means service, that care means sacrifice. You let people lean on you because you know what it feels like to fall. You give your time freely, your comfort without hesitation, your energy without measure. And for a while, it feels like purpose. Their happiness makes you feel valuable. Their relief becomes your reward. You think this is what love is supposed to be, but somewhere along the way, the balance shifts. You start to feel the weight of always being the strong one. You start to notice that when you fall, no one reaches for you. You begin to realize that your role in their life is conditional. They love you when you give, but grow distant when you need. The same people who once said they couldn't live without you become strangers the moment you ask them to stand on their own. That's when you begin to see the price you've been paying for being needed. Being needed can disguise itself as being loved. The lines blur easily, especially when you have a generous heart. You mistake their gratitude for affection, their dependency for loyalty. You tell yourself that they wouldn't come to you if they didn't care. But caring and using can look the same when you're tired and lonely. And because you want to be loved, you convince yourself that you're chosen. You convince yourself that their need is proof of connection. Yet when you stop meeting that need, their love fades like a candle in the wind. This realization doesn't arrive with anger, it arrives with ache. You start to see that people who called you selfless were actually just relieved you had no boundaries. They praised your strength because it benefited them. They admired your patience because it excused their inconsistency. They loved your light, not because they cherished it, but because it illuminated their own darkness. And when that light dimmed, they didn't stay to help you shine again. They simply moved on to find another flame. The price of being needed is that you start to forget your own needs. You become so accustomed to being the healer, the listener, the one who makes everything right, that you lose touch with the sound of your own heart. You start to feel guilty for resting. You feel selfish for saying no. You convince yourself that your worth lives in what you can do for others, and when no one needs you, you feel invisible. That's the deepest wound, believing that without service, you have no value. But you are not here to be everyone's solution. You are not here to carry every burden placed upon you. Your hands were made for holding love, not just holding weight. The ones who truly care for you will not only take from your strength, they will offer their own. They will not just call when they need something, they will call because they love your voice. They will not disappear when you're silent. They will come close enough to hear your quiet. Being needed is not the same as being respected. When someone truly respects you, they will not treat your care as currency. They will not love you for what you do. They will love you for who you are. They will understand that your no is not rejection, but self-respect. They will see that your pause is not distance, but healing. They will want you to thrive, not just to serve. Yet too often, we learn this truth through heartbreak. We learn it when we're drained, when the calls stop, when the gratitude fades. We learn it when we're left sitting in silence, realizing that the people we once held together never once held us. But that is not a reason to become hard. It is a reason to become wise. There is power in learning that your worth is not measured by how many people depend on you. There is freedom in understanding that love should never feel like a job you can't resign from. The world will always need more kindness, but kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction dressed as generosity. The strongest love is the kind that knows when to rest. The most loyal heart is the one that learns when to stop rescuing those who refuse to swim. In the quiet after giving too much, you'll feel the emptiness where people once stood. You might even feel angry, asking yourself why they only came when they needed. But beneath that anger is truth. Your energy was valuable. Your love was powerful. You were not weak for giving. You were human for hoping. And though they may have taken without returning, they could never take the essence of your spirit. That remains yours. That is the part that no one can use. The day you stop paying the price of being needed is the day you begin to live freely. You start to say no with grace. You start to honor your own needs without shame. You begin to see that you can be kind without being used, giving without being drained, loving without being lost. You stop begging to be seen and start choosing to be whole, and you realize that real connection doesn't ask you to shrink. It doesn't ask you to suffer for someone else's comfort. It stands with you, it grows with you, it gives back what you give. There will still be people who try to make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. They'll call you changed, distant, cold, but what they're really saying is, I can no longer use you the way I once did. Let them say it. Let them go. You are no longer for rent to those who confuse your love with their convenience. And in time, you'll find your people, the ones who love your silence as much as your service, the ones who don't just lean on you, but stand beside you, the ones who know that you are not here to fill their emptiness, but to share in their fullness. That is love without transaction. That is connection without cost. That is peace. When you finally stop paying the price of being needed, you reclaim something sacred, yourself. You learn to give from abundance, not obligation. You learn to serve with joy, not fear. And you learn that the love worth keeping is the kind that sees you not as a provider, not as a healer, but as a whole radiant being, worthy even when you have nothing left to give. There comes a moment when the heart, weary and trembling, finally whispers, "Enough." It's not shouted, it's not declared, it's breathed. A whisper so small it almost feels like surrender, but it isn't. It's the first quiet act of courage. It's the moment you realize that love was never meant to be your undoing, and kindness was never meant to be your cage. You've given pieces of yourself to those who only knew how to take. You've offered your light to hands that never tried to understand how fragile its flame was. And though it hurt, you kept giving because you believed that love could change them, that goodness could reach them, that your patience would one day be seen. But courage, real courage, is learning to stop giving what hurts you. You see, it's easy to give when it feels good. It's easy to love when it's reciprocated. But the truest test of your strength is knowing when to pull your heart back from places that no longer honor it. It takes a special kind of bravery to choose yourself after you've been taught that selflessness is the same as love. To say, I will not keep bleeding just to prove that I have a heart. Because that's what happens when you keep pouring into those who refuse to pour back. You start mistaking your suffering for compassion, your pain for purpose. For too long, you've been told that being good means enduring, that being kind means staying, that love is about sacrifice no matter the cost. But no one told you that sometimes love means leaving, that sometimes kindness means saying no, and that sometimes the most powerful way to love yourself is to stop giving what hurts you. You can care deeply for someone and still know that their presence costs too much peace. You can forgive them and still close the door gently behind them. You can be full of love without being full of pain. It takes courage to look at someone you once gave everything to and realize you can no longer afford the price. It takes courage to accept that your giving will never make them whole because healing was never yours to do for them. You can guide, you can comfort, but you cannot save someone who enjoys being carried. You cannot teach gratitude to those who only see your giving as expected. The courage to stop giving is not cruelty. It's clarity. It's the moment you finally understand that you were never meant to feed what starves you. There's a heaviness that comes with overgiving. It's a slow erosion of spirit. You begin to feel yourself dimming, trying to be small enough to fit into their comfort. You start apologizing for your needs, silencing your truth to keep the peace. You keep giving, hoping that one more act of love, one more gesture of kindness will finally be enough to open their eyes. But their blindness isn't your fault, their emptiness isn't your responsibility, and your exhaustion isn't noble. It's a sign that something sacred inside you is crying out to be preserved. The courage to stop giving is the courage to listen to that cry. It's hearing your soul say, "I deserve to be whole," and believing it. It's the strength to walk away, not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring for yourself. It's understanding that the same heart that once stretched endlessly for others now deserves rest. You've given enough, you've proven enough, and now it's time to protect what's left of you. When you stop giving what hurts you, guilt will try to visit. It will whisper, "You're selfish." It will remind you of every time you stayed to help, every time you put someone else first. But guilt is not truth, it's conditioning. You were raised to believe that your value lived in your service, that saying no meant rejection, that being needed was the same as being loved. But here is your quiet rebellion, saying no and still being kind, walking away and still being whole, choosing peace and still being love. The world doesn't reward quiet boundaries. It celebrates those who give until they break. But you are learning that peace is louder than applause. You are learning that your joy is sacred, your time is sacred, your energy is sacred. And protecting them is not selfish, it's wise. You cannot keep pouring from a soul that is constantly bleeding. You cannot nurture others from an empty vessel. To give freely, you must first have something left to give. Sometimes the people who take the most from you will never understand why you stopped. They will call you distant, changed, ungrateful. But you must remember, they were never entitled to your light. They only learned to live by it. Their confusion is not your burden to soothe. You owe no explanation for choosing yourself. The truth is, those who truly love you will never ask you to keep giving past your breaking point. They will see your fatigue and sit beside you. They will honor your pause instead of punishing it. The courage to stop giving what hurts you is the moment you begin to heal. It's when you stop chasing validation in ungrateful places. It's when you understand that love is not a transaction and loyalty should not come with loss of self. You stop mistaking effort for worth. You stop mistaking endurance for devotion. You start to see that your love was never the problem. It was simply offered to people who didn't know how to receive it. As you reclaim your power, the world around you changes. Your silence becomes strength. Your solitude becomes sanctuary. The same heart that once broke for others now beats with a steady rhythm of peace. You realize that love doesn't require you to shrink. It asks you to expand, but never to disappear. And every time you choose yourself, you teach the world how to treat you. You teach it that your compassion has boundaries, your time has value, and your spirit has limits that deserve respect. Stopping doesn't mean you've stopped loving. It means you've learned the language of balance. It means you now understand that love without boundaries is not love. It's surrender. And you were never meant to surrender your light for someone else's comfort. You were meant to share it, to let it shine beside another, not beneath them. The courage to stop giving what hurts you is not the end of love. It's the beginning of self-respect. And when you finally stop, you'll notice how much lighter the world feels. You'll breathe deeper, laugh louder, rest easier. You'll find that peace was never something you had to search for. It was waiting beneath all the things you kept giving away. And from that stillness, you will learn how to give again, not from emptiness, but from overflow, not from obligation, but from joy, not to prove your worth, but because you finally know it. Love in its purest form has no ledger. It doesn't count what it gives, and it doesn't measure what it receives. It does not arrive with conditions, nor does it leave with expectations. But somewhere along the way, many hearts have forgotten this truth. Too many people have learned to love like merchants, offering affection in exchange for attention, giving care to earn validation, showing devotion only when there's something to gain. They dress their taking in pretty words, calling it love, when in truth it is nothing more than transaction. The soul knows the difference, though. You can feel it, the weight of conditional love, the sharp edge of being valued only for what you provide. It's a wound that doesn't bleed, but it drains you all the same. Real love is quiet, yet powerful. It doesn't demand proof. It doesn't need permission. It exists because the heart chooses it, not because the moment requires it. You can always tell when love is real. It feels steady. It feels like air. You don't have to earn it to breathe. It moves through the smallest things, through laughter shared in silence, through the presence that asks for nothing in return. When love is pure, it doesn't keep score. It just is. But in this world, where everything feels like exchange, we've been taught that love must come with effort, sacrifice, and performance. We believe that to be loved, we must earn it. We bend ourselves into shapes that please others. We say yes when we mean no. We give even when our soul is weary. We do this because somewhere deep down we fear that without service, we are not worthy of affection. We are taught to believe that love is a reward, not a right. And so we turn something divine into a deal. Love without transaction requires unlearning that conditioning. It asks you to stand bare, to give without bargaining, to receive without fear. It invites you to understand that your worth does not depend on what you offer. You are worthy because you exist, because you breathe, because your soul carries light even when no one is watching. When love is pure, it doesn't ask you to perform. It invites you to be. When someone loves you without transaction, you'll feel it. They won't make you guess your place. They won't measure your effort like currency. They won't disappear when your hands are empty. Their presence doesn't change when you stop giving. They see you not as a function, but as a person. They stay because their heart recognizes yours, not because your energy benefits them. They will still call when you are quiet, still hold you when you're weak, still cherish you when you're no longer convenient. That is love, steady, patient, free. And you too must learn to love like that, not just others, but yourself. You must learn to love yourself without conditions, without demanding perfection, without requiring constant proof of worthiness. You must stop treating your own heart as a transaction, giving it compassion only when you've succeeded, only when you feel enough. Love yourself in your stillness. Love yourself when you are flawed, when you are learning, when you are lost. That is the beginning of healing, the understanding that love was never meant to be earned, only expressed. When love becomes transactional, it breeds exhaustion. It creates relationships where both people are performers, not partners. They keep records of kindness, tally moments of affection, and call it balance. But real love doesn't ask for balance. It seeks harmony. It is not 50-50. It is flow. Some days you give more. Some days you receive more. But the current never stops. Transactional love stops when the benefit stops. True love keeps going even when there's nothing left to gain. To love without transaction is not weakness. It's power. It means you have mastered your ego enough to love from abundance, not need. It means your giving is not an investment, but a reflection of who you are. When you love freely, you free yourself. You are no longer bound by outcomes, no longer chained to the reactions of others. You give because you choose to, not because you hope to be chosen. And yet, loving like this takes courage. It requires trust in yourself, in the goodness of your heart, even after you've been hurt. It requires knowing that love is never wasted, even when it isn't returned. Every act of genuine love plants something eternal. It changes you. It deepens you. It connects you to the very essence of life. When you give from your truth, you are never empty. The world may take from your hands, but it cannot take from your spirit. There will always be people who try to turn love into leverage. They will offer affection only when it benefits them, withdraw it when you stop serving their comfort. They will make you feel that love must be earned, that approval must be purchased. But remember, that is not love. That is manipulation painted in the colors of affection. You owe no loyalty to love that comes with a price tag. You owe no gratitude to those who use your heart as a currency. Love without transaction also means allowing others to give to you. It means letting yourself receive without suspicion or shame. You are not taking advantage when you allow yourself to be cared for. You are not a burden when you lean on love. So many people have learned to give so much that they've forgotten how to receive. They push away kindness because they fear debt. But the heart doesn't work that way. It's not a ledger, it's a garden. The more you nurture it, the more it grows. The more you share its fruits, the more abundant it becomes. When two people love without transaction, something sacred happens. There is peace in their connection. They do not compete, they complement. They do not measure, they multiply. There is no fear of losing, no constant test of loyalty. There is just truth and the quiet knowing that love is safe here. This is what every soul seeks. Not perfection, not performance, but peace. And when you learn to love like that, everything in your world softens. You begin to see beauty where there was once burden. You begin to forgive faster, not because you're weak, but because your heart is no longer keeping score. You begin to release those who cannot meet you there, not out of anger, but out of understanding. They are still learning the language of love. Love without transaction is the highest form of freedom. It's a surrender, but not of dignity. It's a surrender of fear. It's the moment you decide that your love will no longer be currency, but legacy. You will give because you can. You will care because it is your nature. And you will walk away when giving becomes pain, not punishment. Because love is never supposed to hurt. It is supposed to lift, to teach, to grow. When you love without expecting, you discover the divine in every connection. You find meaning even in the temporary. You find peace even in the letting go. For love is not about possession, it is about presence. It's about being here in this moment fully with all that you are, asking for nothing and giving everything, not because you must, but because your soul overflows. That is love in its truest form, pure, whole, and eternal. Pain has a strange way of introducing itself. It never knocks politely, it enters without invitation, unpacks its heavy bags, and makes a home inside your chest. At first, you resist it. You cry, you bargain, you ask why. You reach for light, but it feels far away. You want the ache to stop, but pain does not leave because you wish it to. It leaves when it has taught you what you refuse to learn in comfort. Pain, as cruel as it may seem, is a patient teacher. It doesn't speak in gentle tones. It whispers in the language of loss, betrayal, disappointment, and endurance. It comes to reveal what peace tried to show you softly, but you were too busy, too distracted, too trusting to notice. Every wound carries a message. Every heartbreak carries a mirror. Pain strips away the illusions we build around ourselves, the illusions that we are in control, that people will stay forever, that love will always be fair. It takes everything you thought was certain and turns it into dust. And in that dust, if you look closely, you will find the truth about who you are, about what you deserve, about what you must never allow again. Pain doesn't destroy you to punish you. It dismantles you to rebuild you stronger, wiser, softer in the right places, and harder in the necessary ones. When you are in pain, you begin to see clearly. You begin to recognize how much of your happiness was dependent on things that could be taken away. You see how easily you gave away your peace in exchange for approval, how much of yourself you handed to people who were never meant to hold you. Pain removes your blindfold. It doesn't ask for permission to open your eyes. It simply does. It forces you to confront the truth about yourself, the parts of you that are afraid to be alone, the parts that confuse love with acceptance, the parts that would rather break quietly than demand to be treated right. There is a wisdom that only suffering can give. It teaches you empathy, patience, compassion, and resilience. The person who has never been broken cannot understand the beauty of healing. They cannot appreciate the quiet strength it takes to rise again after being shattered. Pain shapes you into something more authentic. It burns away everything false until all that remains is what is real. The laughter that follows pain is deeper. The love that follows pain is purer. The gratitude that follows pain is honest. Pain teaches you boundaries in ways that peace never could. It shows you what happens when you ignore your intuition, when you give more than you should, when you stay longer than you must. It reminds you that self-love is not a luxury, it is survival. The people who broke you will never understand the gift they gave you. They will never see how their absence became your awakening. Pain is the fire that forges strength out of softness. It is the storm that clears the path for clarity. You do not truly meet yourself until pain introduces you. You learn through pain that healing is not about forgetting what hurt you. It's about remembering without breaking. It's about standing in the same place that once made you fall and realizing that it no longer has power over you. Healing is not instant, it is daily. Some days you will feel strong, and other days you will feel the ache as if it never left. But even on the hardest days, you are still growing. Even when it feels like you're standing still, something deep within you is mending, reorganizing, preparing you to live again. Pain does not end your story. It begins a new chapter of truth. In pain, there is also purification. You start to see what truly matters. You stop chasing approval from those who don't see your worth. You stop begging for explanations from those who wronged you. You start valuing peace over attention, authenticity over perfection. You realize that some losses were actually protection. Some endings were beginnings in disguise. You no longer cling to what doesn't nourish your spirit. Pain teaches you how to let go, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You also learn to love differently. You learn that love is not about filling someone's emptiness. It's about walking beside them as they fill their own. You learn to choose people who match your energy, who meet your effort, who see you not as a source of comfort, but as a soul worth cherishing. Pain teaches you to stop confusing familiarity with connection, chaos with passion, and dependency with love. You stop needing to be needed, and you start needing to be understood. That shift changes everything. Pain humbles you. It reminds you that no matter how kind you are, not everyone will return your kindness. No matter how deeply you love, not everyone is capable of loving you back in the same way. But even then, pain teaches you grace. You learn to forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You learn that holding anger burns only your own hands. You learn to release, not to excuse, but to set yourself free. Forgiveness becomes the bridge between pain and peace. There are nights when the ache feels unbearable, when the silence of what's gone echoes louder than any voice. In those moments, you will be tempted to believe that pain has defeated you, but even then, your spirit is learning. Every tear that falls is watering something within you, a new strength, a new boundary, a new understanding of love. Pain is not here to destroy your softness. It's here to teach you how to carry it wisely, to remind you that you can be both gentle and unbreakable. The lessons pain gives are not written in words. They are etched in your becoming. One day, you'll look back and realize that what you thought was the end was actually transformation. You'll see that without that heartbreak, you would have never found your voice. Without that loss, you would have never discovered your resilience. Without that disappointment, you would have never learned the beauty of detachment. Pain has always been the great sculptor of the soul. It shapes us into our truest form. So when life cuts deep, when your heart feels too heavy to carry, remember this: pain is not the enemy. It is the messenger. It is trying to tell you where you have ignored yourself. It is pointing you toward the parts of your spirit that need care, attention, and truth. If you listen instead of resist, if you learn instead of run, pain will not just wound you, it will awaken you. It will lead you back to yourself, stronger, wiser, and more compassionate than before. And though it may take time, though the nights may feel endless, one day you'll wake up and realize that the ache has softened. You'll smile again, not because the pain vanished, but because it taught you how to live with open eyes and an open heart. Pain, after all, was never here to break you. It was here to show you that you could never truly be broken. Reclaiming your power begins in silence. Quiet moments when you finally stop explaining, stop chasing, stop justifying your worth to people who only saw you as convenient. It begins when the noise of their opinions fades and you're left alone with your own heartbeat. That rhythm becomes your reminder that you still exist, that you still have life pulsing through you even after being drained by those who mistook your kindness for weakness. It's in that sacred stillness that you start to hear your own voice again, the one you silenced to keep others comfortable, the one that knew the truth even when you pretended not to see it. Reclaiming your power isn't loud, it's steady. It's not vengeance, it's awakening. It's remembering that you were never powerless, just giving too much power to those who did not deserve it. There comes a moment when you finally see it clearly. No one else is coming to save you. No apology will rewrite the story. No explanation will return the years you spent waiting for them to see your value. You realize that healing isn't about fixing what others broke. It's about reclaiming what you abandoned inside yourself while trying to be enough for them. You stop begging people to love you correctly. You stop waiting for closure that may never come. You learn to be your own closure, your own apology, your own peace. Reclaiming your power means looking in the mirror and saying, I am enough, even when they couldn't see it. I am whole, even after what I lost. When you begin to stand in your power, you notice how uncomfortable it makes others who thrived on your self-doubt. The ones who once fed on your compliance will call your confidence arrogance. They'll say you've changed, and they'll be right. You have. You no longer fold yourself into smaller versions to fit their comfort. You no longer apologize for taking up space. You no longer shrink to keep peace that only protected their ego. Your transformation will unsettle those who benefited from your silence. But don't mistake their discomfort for your wrongdoing. You are simply returning to yourself. Reclaiming your power is remembering that boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks only you can open. You learn to say no without guilt, to rest without apology, to detach without bitterness. You realize that your energy is a currency and not everyone can afford your presence. You stop over-explaining your choices because peace does not require justification. You stop seeking validation from people whose vision is too small to hold your truth. You stop fighting to prove your worth to those who only saw you as a source of what they could take. There's strength in walking away quietly. There's power in not responding to manipulation. There's dignity in protecting your spirit without making an announcement. Sometimes reclaiming your power means not attending every argument you're invited to. It means letting people misinterpret your silence and knowing that their misunderstanding no longer defines you. It means choosing to preserve your peace over proving your point. That kind of power is not loud, it's spiritual. It's the kind of power that comes from knowing who you are and no longer needing anyone else to confirm it. You begin to see how much energy you wasted trying to fix others while ignoring your own wounds. You recognize how you confused control with care, how you thought you could love someone into wholeness. Reclaiming your power means forgiving yourself for staying too long, for giving too much, for not seeing the red flags because you were too busy painting them white. You release the shame of your past choices and understand they were lessons, not life sentences. You forgive yourself not because you were wrong for loving, but because you were human for hoping. True power is gentle. It doesn't demand attention. It commands respect through authenticity. It's in the way you walk into a room no longer needing to be noticed, yet your presence shifts the energy. It's in the way you speak your truth calmly, not to convince, but to affirm your own knowing. Power is not control over others. It's control over yourself. It's being able to feel anger without letting it consume you, to feel fear without letting it paralyze you, to feel sadness without losing your joy. Power is emotional discipline. It's choosing peace when chaos is familiar. You begin to reclaim your time, no longer pouring hours into people or places that drain you. You start creating boundaries not to punish others, but to protect your light. You spend more time with yourself and learn to enjoy your own company. You begin to rediscover your dreams, the ones you buried beneath compromise. You start to nurture your creativity, your spirituality, your rest. You begin to realize that the version of you that others couldn't appreciate was never too much. It was simply too real for their comfort. There will be moments when reclaiming your power feels lonely. The path back to yourself often is. You will question if you've become cold or detached. But the truth is, you're not hardening, you're healing. You are learning that solitude is not emptiness. It's space for clarity. You are not withdrawing from love. You are recalibrating your heart to recognize the difference between genuine care and disguised control. You are not losing people. You are losing illusions. And every illusion you release returns a piece of your strength to you. Reclaiming your power also means redefining what love looks like. You stop chasing intensity and start seeking consistency. You stop mistaking effort for attachment. You learn that love should not feel like begging. It should not require you to sacrifice your peace for connection. You stop glorifying pain as proof of devotion. You understand that healthy love feels calm, mutual, and freeing, not exhausting, confusing, or conditional. When you reclaim your power, you no longer crave relationships that take from you. You crave relationships that align with you. It takes courage to choose yourself after years of choosing others. It takes faith to believe that walking away from what's familiar can lead to something greater. But every time you say no to what dishonors you, you say yes to your future. Every time you stop explaining your worth, you honor your inner truth. Every time you refuse to go back to what broke you, you reclaim another piece of your power. And one day, you wake up and realize that you are no longer triggered by the memories that once made you tremble. The names that once wounded you lose their weight. The people who once had power over your emotions no longer reach your spirit. You no longer feel the urge to prove, to chase, to fix. That is the quiet liberation of self-respect. That is the moment you realize that your peace is your power, your stillness is your strength, and your boundaries are your protection. Reclaiming your power is not an act of revenge. It's an act of rebirth. It's the moment you stop asking for permission to be free and start giving it to yourself. You realize that the world may not always reward your growth, but your soul will. You stop performing for love and start embodying it. You stop existing in survival mode and start living in truth. And when you stand in that truth, when you finally claim every part of who you are without apology, you become unstoppable. Because nothing and no one can take from you what you have reclaimed within yourself. Rising beyond what broke you is not a single moment. It's 1,000 small decisions that build upon each other. It's waking up on mornings when your heart feels heavy and still choosing to face the world. It's taking one step forward when your soul wants to stay in bed with the memories. It's whispering, "I'm still here," when everything inside you aches to disappear. Rising is not a dramatic rebirth. It's a quiet rebellion against the pain that tried to bury you. It's the slow, steady reclaiming of your own life, piece by piece, breath by breath. When something breaks you, it leaves a mark. You can feel it in the way you hesitate to trust again, the way you question your worth when things fall apart. You can hear it in the silence after someone leaves, in the ache that lingers when you think of what could have been. But you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become despite it. The world will try to define you by your heartbreaks, by your losses, by your failures, but you do not have to accept their definition. Rising beyond what broke you begins when you stop letting your pain narrate your story and start letting your strength do the speaking. There's a certain beauty in being broken open. The pain that cracked you also created space inside you for light to enter. You start to see things you once ignored, the small joys, the quiet peace, the love you almost forgot existed. You learn that healing doesn't mean pretending the cracks never happened. It means finding the courage to grow through them. You begin to understand that your scars are not proof of defeat. They are evidence that you survived. Each one tells a story of resilience, of lessons learned, of battles fought and overcome. Rising beyond what broke you requires forgiveness, not always for others, but for yourself. Forgive yourself for the times you stayed when you knew you should have walked away. Forgive yourself for the nights you begged for love that was never yours to keep. Forgive yourself for the versions of you that didn't know better, who thought being loyal meant losing yourself. Healing doesn't come from punishing your past self. It comes from embracing them with compassion. Every broken version of you was doing the best they could with what they had, and now you are doing better because of them. The process of rising isn't graceful. It's messy, unpredictable, and often lonely. You will take steps forward and stumble back. You will think you're healed, only to find old pain resurfacing in unexpected ways. But even when you fall, you're still moving. Even when you cry, you're still cleansing. Growth isn't linear, it's layered. You grow, you hurt, you learn, you unlearn, and you grow again. That's the rhythm of becoming whole. Each breakdown you endure is simply a breaking open, making room for something stronger, something wiser, something freer to emerge. There will come a time when the pain that once consumed you begins to lose its power. The memories that used to pierce your heart will start to fade into lessons instead of wounds. You will look back and realize that what once felt like an ending was, in truth, a beginning. You'll understand that what broke you also built you, that the heartbreak that emptied you made space for self-love, that the betrayal that shattered you taught you discernment, that the loss that silenced you gave you a new voice. What you thought was destruction was really transformation. To rise beyond what broke you, you must let go of the illusion that healing means forgetting. Healing is not erasure, it's acceptance. It's learning to live with the memories without letting them control you. It's being able to revisit your past without reliving it. You learn to honor the pain without staying in it. You no longer need to explain what hurt you or prove how much you've grown. Your peace speaks for you. You rise not to show the world what they lost, but to show yourself what you gained, the unshakable truth that you can endure, evolve, and begin again. There's a sacred power in choosing to keep your heart open after it's been broken. The easy path is bitterness, closing yourself off to protect from more pain. But true strength is softness that refuses to die. Rising beyond what broke you means learning to love again, but differently, wisely, gently, without losing yourself this time. You love not because you forget the hurt, but because you've learned it's possible to feel deeply and still stay whole. You begin to trust again, not in people, but in your ability to survive whatever comes. The world has a way of testing those who have been broken. Life will keep asking, have you really healed? Have you really let go? It will place you in situations that mirror your old wounds, not to torment you, but to show you how much you've grown. The difference this time is your response. You no longer chase what left you. You no longer beg for clarity. You no longer confuse chaos with love. That's when you'll know you've risen, not above others, but beyond your own pain. You begin to walk lighter. You stop rehearsing old conversations. You stop checking if they still think about you. You stop needing to prove your worth in someone else's story. You start living for yourself again, slowly, deliberately, joyfully. You find peace in solitude. You find purpose in your pain. You realize that what once broke you was not your ending, but your awakening. You start to see beauty where you once saw ruin. The laughter returns, not forced, but genuine. The smile you wear is no longer armor, it's freedom. Rising beyond what broke you also means understanding that closure isn't something you get. It's something you create. You no longer need to hear the apology. You no longer need them to see your worth. You close the door because you finally understand that peace is not found in their remorse, but in your release. You move on, not because you're over it, but because you're tired of carrying what's no longer yours to hold. And as you continue to rise, something miraculous happens. You start to thank the pain, not because it was fair or easy, but because it refined you. You start to appreciate the strength that came from the struggle, the wisdom that came from the wounds, the courage that came from surviving. You start to understand that every fall was preparation for your flight. You realize that if you hadn't been broken, you would have never discovered how much light lives inside of you. You become both softer and stronger, softer in your empathy, stronger in your boundaries, softer in your love, stronger in your discernment. You no longer need validation because you've learned to trust your own reflection. You no longer crave revenge because you found peace in your freedom. You no longer seek closure because you've created it within yourself. That is the essence of rising beyond what broke you. It's the art of turning your scars into wisdom, your grief into grace, and your pain into purpose. One day, you'll look back at the pieces of your old life and realize you no longer fit there. The pain that once defined you will become distant, like an old song you no longer relate to. You'll smile, not because it didn't hurt, but because you finally see how far you've come. You'll know that you didn't just survive, you rose. You rose above the lies, above the heartbreak, above the fear. You rose into your power, into your truth, into your peace. And in that rising, you'll find that what broke you was never your ending. It was the making of your wings. So if they leave when you stop giving, let them. If they speak ill when you stop helping, let them. Because real love stays even when the giving ends. Real hearts see your worth, not your usefulness. And one day, you'll meet souls who won't need to take from you to love you. They'll simply love you because you are enough.